So we have to re-envisage businesses where people live and love the work and actually are coming to work and making decisions every day that impact themselves, that impact others, that impact nature.
You bring identity and purpose back into the vision of these businesses, and that's what I often do, is you go back in, remind them what they're here to do and why they're valuable into this organization, why this organization is adding value to society, to its purpose. Then suddenly people want to work there. Then you get way more out of people.
What I'm trying to get people to think about is what the purpose of money is, as basic as that. And we're confused.
The Manna journey is the catalyst for change in our world. It's a consistent source of truth for the next generation and current leaders. Our mission is to change the world by reframing our current governance, by using ancient wisdom to solve modern problems, and by shaping innovative new businesses to have a culture of pursuit of purpose.
Okay, Philip, we've talked about many of the problems that exist, but one of them fundamentally is that businesses are not being organised in a way that delivers meaningful employment for people. People feel like robots. There's all these jokes that were made about Henry Ford and all the jobs being very, very specialised and therefore incredibly mundane. How can businesses operate differently?
So they've got to be reorganised around people and small self-managing teams of maybe 10, kind of small family, with a purpose. So the jobs are meaningless because we've been focused on money, and money is the driver, and you make more money by employing fewer people. That's the key incentive, and the environment has no voice. So we have to re-envisage businesses where people live and love the work and actually are coming to work and making decisions every day that impact themselves, that impact others, that impact nature, and regroup around small teams. So we've got to almost dismantle these huge centralized organizations that we've created and move back to meeting the local needs. A bit like we talked about this before, Bertzog, where district nursing was reorganized around a small team of nurses, 10 nurses. Each nurse is responsible for a local community. They start meeting the needs of each person. They start building relationships with each person. They start re-engaging the family. So the purpose becomes to build those relationships, Andrew. It's a relationship building exercise rather than a money-making exercise.
But why not? And I know you hate this idea, but why, can you tell me why we shouldn't just maximise profit so we can maximise the amount that we give to charity, maximise philanthropy?
Because that's inflationary. If my purpose is to make more and more money, which has no purpose, there's more money in the system. You can get it by gearing up, by using financial engineering. And that is actually inflationary. So if your focus is profit and not people and nature, we make more and more of it. There's more and more money created, more and more inflation, and then more and more suffering. And inflation kills. Let's not mince our words. Inflation does kill.
It does. Isn't there also an idea, though, and try and persuade me of this, I think there's a general view that if you do not maximise profit, businesses become inefficient, sloppy, the products they produce are bad. Is it unfair to take that view?
No, I don't think it's about it. So maximizing profit is one objective of many. I think if you only pursue a maximizing profit objective, you won't be a sustainable business over the long term. And I think that's a culture shift that has to happen, that if you're only looking at maximizing profit, eventually you'll become too lean. So what happens in so many, I've been brought into businesses to turn them around. And in many cases, people think I'm going to go in there and fire everyone and cut the cost. And you say, no, well, that would be terrible because we need people to build something. What is often lacking in businesses is a lack of vision and a lack of identity and purpose. You bring identity and purpose back into the vision of these businesses. And that's what I often do, is you go back in, remind them what they're here to do and why they're valuable into this organization, why this organization is adding value to society, to its purpose. then suddenly people want to work there. Then you get way more out of people. So this concept actually it's an interesting concept of decentralized, let's say, management. I mean, I've always believed that as a CEO of businesses is a decentralized model. It's management by objective. So to me, what is a good CEO? I like the management by objective, which is another way of saying decentralized. And you trust people to say, you know what, your objective, your purpose is to try and create this, the best team, the best purpose. Here's your people, here's your tribe. Go out and do something, and you're in charge of this.
But doesn't this fly in the face of, I mean, by the way, it all sounds great, but this flies in the face of all the outsourcing that we've seen more recently. Because I mean, I look around at a lot of the products in my house. The pride in the workmanship doesn't exist like it did when the company was down the road. But that is the direction of travel, outsourcing.
Yeah, but it's not a sustainable business. I don't think it is the direction of travel. I think increasingly it's becoming important that things are sustainably sourced. I mean, you walk around London, you look at all these amazing coffee shops, and they're all now ethically sourced. They're, bean to coffee. It's farm to table. I think people want that now, and I think if you do that, you actually have a better business, because a business is only as good as it is sustainable. And if you're pursuing a ruthless pursuit of a profit margin, you'll typically take too much debt on, as economies are doing. But businesses will often take too much debt, trying to maximize profits. And it's the objective of maximizing profits that is incorrect. If you focus on how do you make a great business, and then you will create something great, and that will be sustainable.
The combined idea of profits and purpose, I don't think works. I'll be straight with you. It doesn't work because it's not clear what the purpose is. What I'm trying to get people to think about is what the purpose of money is, as basic as that. And we're confused. You're saying, I want to do purpose, but I also want to make money. But the two are the same. So the Manna story is talking about limiting the amount of money in the system, let's say to an amount per person. A population of 1 million, £50 per day is £50 million. And what you've got to do is flow, which means businesses to be sustainable have to be part of the flow. It's not about making more money. Now, in this model, everybody has to get £50 every day to meet their needs. If they're not part of the flow, they don't get the £50, they still need to buy food and clothing. And so therefore you have to effectively not lend the money, you've got to give them money because they need to actually put food on the table. It doesn't impact them just because they're not employed, they still need the money. The trouble is, that is putting extra money into the flow. And that's creating the problem we have with uncontrolled growth in money supply, which is inflationary. So what you then combine that with is when you have more money flowing in than you need, you've got to re-inject it back into the flow by finding somebody else who hasn't got a job and using everything. And what you find is £50 suddenly has meaning. £50 is what one person needs to live off in a day. That's what's missing in the system. We haven't got any meaning for money. Money is meaningless. If it's meaningless, it doesn't matter.
Philip, why would I want to give money away to my neighbour?
Because I want relationships. Money is meaningless. As we're both saying, the people who've got yachts and billions of pounds, they're not happy because what we really are social beings. We need relationships. So therefore, if the money is about building relationships, I've got lots of people that love me. Now, effectively, we're talking about no debt. So it's like welfare, but it's welfare to work. So if somebody's unemployed, so you have to give them the food because they have to put clothes on food on the table and feed their family. But what you're trying to do is not get it repaid because they need that money, but you use it to start working with them to find them meaningful employment so they become part of the flow. So what we're describing as more profit is actually not more profit, it's flow. We have to try and achieve flow. And every person, I as an individual, have to use the money I've got to ensure that it flows around the system, that it reaches the parts that other biz don't reach, the old Heineken.
What's interesting about this, Philip, is that inevitably, the way government works at the moment, you've got a very prescriptive list of what benefits you get for this and illness for that and whatever. What you're talking about is saying, right, well, let's meet everybody's needs every single day. And the way that is delivered, because it's delivered locally, what it might mean, I know I've already given this example, but I've lost my job, but you're saying, well, okay, you've lost your job and we will provide for you as a family and as a community. But you know something, we really need the local park mowed or whatever. And therefore, all of this, what is at the moment social security, will be delivered locally, but it will be giving people work in order to justify the money.
Look, we do it now. We don't expect people to pay back social welfare because they need that food to live. It's a concept that we're familiar with. We just don't see it as wide as it should be. And therefore, you start to rebuild a community.
The vast majority of social security is parents to children, of course.
No, but we have to, we have to look after people and get people to think about every £50 in their bank account. It's how can I meet the needs of individuals and the needs of my community and my family. So you go out in the street, you say, 1 minute, we need a school, we need this kind of business. And therefore you then start to look at the money that's landing in your bank account as a means of meeting people's needs.
And I guess in your case, Philip, what's interesting of your model, this is a community, family-centric that is doing that distribution versus the state trying to manage this, because this, or the market. I mean, we know for a fact the state is a terrible, allocator of capital and resources, hyper inefficient, will continue to get more and more inefficient, and I think is getting increasingly out of touch.
But if you look at the way that social security is provided by families, parents to children, support for going to university, it's incredibly focused on need, isn't it?
Yes.
Because what doesn't happen is a parent does not turn around to their child and go, here are the national rules of how much money you should get as pocket money.
And they don't say to their kids, can I have the money back. They don't lend their kids. They actually share with the kids. You don't give your wife £50, say, can I have this in exchange? That's not the nature of the relationship. It's a family. You're working together.